presidential election petition tribunal that will start very soon. So they need to go through the BVAS in order to be able to go through what's recorded in the BVAS, what's recorded on the paper, and what's recorded on IREV. All right. So there's now that conversation, because if INEC can't touch BVAS until all of these political parties, both of these political parties rather, both of them go through the BVAS to be able to know if there are discrepancies or not, it will take months. And if that is not done on time, that means that INEC will not be able to reconfigure the BVAS for us to use it for governorship polls. So there is one, quote and unquote, some sort of, threat to the polls on
The
Saturday.
governorship election, yeah, on Saturday. Well, we started a review yesterday, and of course, we understand that, look, to reconfigure over 176,000 BVAS machines will take time. It's not going to happen in an hour or two. It may take days for that to happen. But again, because the case is in court, I wouldn't want to dwell too much on the merits of the Labour Party and the PDP suit, or what the INEC is saying. But the reality is that the courts have said they are going to give a judgment on this case by 2 p.m. today. By 2 p.m. they're going to make a ruling on it. But I think if you look at the argument of INEC, what they are saying is that, look, the data collected by BVAS can be stored on the INEC server, at the back end of INEC server, stored safely. And that, look, any inspection that will be done should be done where this data is stored safe and secure. That instead of saying that, look, don't touch BVAS, it will take too much time, because, again, how many days would it take the PDP, for example, or the Labour Party? And I'm sure that they might do separate inspection. How many days would it take them to inspect 176,000 plus BVAS that was deployed for the election across the country to take place? And that may even disrupt the electoral process this season, because, again, there are timelines to these things as stipulated by the Constitution. So, again, we'll see what the pronouncements of the court on this issue today, because I expect that, look, if you collect the data with any computer machine, you can store it safely. There are back-end storage systems that can, of course, accommodate those data, and then it's safe and secure. But again, we'll see what the courts will decide. And like we discussed yesterday, we may be in for a postponement of the governorship election. Again, how that fits into the dictates of the Constitution is what we don't know. But again, the case is in court. We are expecting a ruling by 2 p.m. today, and then we'll know what next as far as touching BVAS or not touching BVAS is concerned, as initiated by the Labour Party and the PDP.
Okay. Well, the more details of that on page 4 of the Nation. I think that absolutely captures it all. Just means that if INEC is unable to reconfigure all 146 and still counting BVAS machines, it may be difficult. We may have to experience what we experienced at the presidential poll, where the presiding officers are resuming late and all of that. Well, we'll hear from the court today, and they will know the way forward. More details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Moving on, still on INEC and elections. 98 senators-elect got their certificates of return yesterday, and it was quite an interesting one. So at the moment now, we have... at the moment now, we still have some states still have outstanding, results, inconclusive. Yes, so there are still some elections that will still be held. But then Sokoto still has 3 seats vacant. Kebbi has 1 seat vacant. Enugu, Zamfara, Yobe, Plateau all have 1 seat vacant at the Senate. All right. So, however, in terms of parties now at the Senate, the APC still maintains the lead with 56 seats at the Senate. The PDP with 32 seats at the Senate, the Labour Party with 7 seats at the Senate, NNPP with 2 seats, SDP with 2 seats, APCA with 1 seat, and YPP with 1 seat. The YPP is that's Senator Uba Patrick Ifeanyi Uba in Anambra State, where also the Labour Party had 2 of their seats. That's Tony Unwoye and Ume Victor. All right, so we can get all of the details on page 5. Also, interestingly, from the Senate certificates of return, or the Senate election results, we also have the fact that Senator Dogua his name was removed from the list. We'll give the reason now. So House of Reps leader Al-Hassan Dogua will not be among the members of elect to be presented with their COR by INEC today. Yes, that's for House of Representatives now. And Dogua's name was missing from the official list of winners that was released yesterday. And INEC stated that the declaration for that particular federal constituency in Kano was actually made under duress. That means that the returning officer announced the result for that federal constituency, that's Doguwa Tunduwada federal constituency in Kano. It was made under duress. The Federal High Court in Kano granted Doguwa bail following his detention over alleged complicity in the murder of 3 members of his constituency. Yes. So he was also charged with causing grievous hurt, mischief by fire, inciting disturbance a day after the election, and the police said that these are offenses that are contrary to sections 97, 114, 221, 247, and 336 of the Penal Code. So as it is now, his name has been removed from that particular one.
List of winners, yeah.
Yes, so that's it. Okay, so that seat as of now still is inconclusive. We'll get more details as regards that particular one much later. Okay, so that is on page 5 also of the Nation newspaper. Now, moving on, we also have here groups to INEC ignore PDP and Labour Party. And that's on page 6 of the Nation. And let's see the groups. What we have is that a coalition that's comprising several support groups of the APC have told INEC not to be intimidated by protests of what it called the ragtag opposition, PDP and Labour Party. So the coalition, under the aegis of Tinubu Support Groups, TSG, spoke during a rally in support of the president-elect yesterday in Abuja. This is also as another pro-Atiku group, that's coalition of civil society organizations, called for the resignation of INEC chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu. So the interesting part is that the 2 opposing groups met at the headquarters of INEC in Abuja yesterday. It was an interesting one. But then before we go to the CSOs requesting or calling for the resignation of, and I don't think that's the first time that we'll be hearing that particular request. But then as regards the coalition that's asking INEC not to succumb to PDP and Labour Party's intimidation, what are your thoughts?
But Sandra, I'm sure you know my position on groups making statements and grandstanding and all of these things when it comes to political issues. Again, the Constitution of Nigeria gives people the right to converge, form association and groups for whatever reason, so far it is legal and not anything criminal. And they also have a right to make pronouncements, to make calls, to make demands under the law, so far those calls are legitimate and within the ambit of the law. So these groups saying that INEC should ignore PDP and Labour Party, it is within their rights to say that. But I'm sure that INEC would never ignore a party that has a major stake in the election. Without the political parties, INEC would not even exist at all to conduct elections. So I'm sure the group is just, maybe just fapping around really. And again, like I said, both of these groups are just formed for chop reasons. And so it's easy to converge somewhere, put a number of persons together in the name of a group, and then, of course, issue statements like this. Then for the group also talking about Atiku and all that, again, these are just mere distractions. Like I mentioned yesterday, Sandra, the politicians know what to do when they feel dissatisfied about an election process. They know the right things to do. We have different cases now that have been filed at the tribunal, and there are different pronouncements that we're going to get at the court. So I think we should just keep our eyes on the ball, focus on what we are going to be getting from the court, and just leave this group alone. But again, we are talking about them because the papers have reported them. But I don't take them serious, Sandra, honestly. My opinion is that they are not anything that we should take serious.
Well, more details on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. Moving on, we also have here ECOWAS awards Buhari icon of democracy. That's also on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. And here we also have this interesting story still on elections. INEC has fired Sakwato Rec. That's interesting. This is just a few days to the governorship elections, but let's get the details of that. INEC has suspended. What is happening? Okay, so apologies. On the front page of the Nation, it says INEC fired. Okay.
Now the report is saying suspension.
Yeah, the report is saying suspension. Okay. So INEC has suspended the resident electoral commissioner in Sokoto, Dr. Nura Ali, and this is coming just 4 days before the elections on Saturday. And it was announced in a letter addressed to both the REC and the administrative secretary in the state. So according to the letter, Dr. Nura Ali has been directed to stay away from the commission's office in Sokoto State until further notice. All right. That is what we have. So the administrative secretary has been directed to take full charge of INEC Sokoto State office with immediate effect. I'm not getting so much as regards why. I'm not getting.
No. The report is that the REC there was found culpable in the handling of the process and all of that. You know, as we speak, Sokoto has about 3 senators.
It's not in the report.
Yes, about 3 senatorial seats are inconclusive.
Yes.
You know, so I think there were a lot of reports and complaints about the conduct of the REC. But I think that beyond suspension, Sandra, he should be investigated, and if he's found culpable, he should be prosecuted. You know, to serve as example to others, because if you just suspend, it means that whatever he did, you know, to tamper with the process and mess up the process, still remains, and then the consequence is there. I think if he is found culpable in any way, if he did anything wrong during the last election, he should be investigated and then prosecuted, to serve as example to others. Now, for the sake of editorial correction, Sandra, what we have on the Nation newspaper as a cover headline is disinformation. If someone was suspended, you don't use fire. We know fire is sacked or removed. So, because again, there are people who don't even read the inner pages of the paper. They just go with the headline.
Yeah.
And so, for sake of editorial, you know, doing this job properly, I think our editors should also, you know, spare some of these things. People complain that politicians put a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there. It shouldn't be happening with our papers. I think our editors should just help us.
All right, I totally agree with you. Now, I got into the report and I saw
You were shocked too.
All right, well, more details on page 27 of the Nation newspaper. Still on the front page of the Nation, banks pay old Naira notes to customers. However, there are riders to that. Traders reject old currencies. AGF, mum over Supreme Court judgment. So some banks continued the payment of the old Naira notes. In specific, GT, Zenith, Sterling Bank started paying out the 500 Naira and 1,000 Naira notes. Okay, following the judgment of the Supreme Court last Friday, saying that, you know, both old notes and new notes can run concurrently or run in circulation till December 31st. Okay. So with that, although there have been some silence from the part of the president, the AGF, and also the CBN governor, which, you know, there was some sort of confusion because the banks need, you know, direction or a directive from the CBN, who's the regulator of the banking industry. So what we have now is that some banks have started paying the old notes. However, you know, we still have people not accepting the old notes because they don't know, you know, the president could come with another statement, or the AGF or the CBN governor. We've not heard anything, and this is almost 5 days after or 6 days after, you know, the Supreme Court judgment.
You know, Sandra, there's a singular thing that can end this confusion that we have now. And you can't blame Nigerians for getting confused about this particular judgment. You know, when these old notes became, you know, when the deadline for the old notes to become a legal tender happened, we had statements from the CBN, In fact, at some point, we also got a broadcast from the president. So if the Supreme Court has now ruled, and that is the highest court in the land, that look, the old note should become a legal tender with the new note till December 31st. Look, a simple memo, a one-page memo, just a one-page memo, maybe 2 paragraphs, even 1 paragraph memo can do this magic. From the presidency to the CBN, that look, in complying with the ruling of the Supreme Court, so and so should happen, the old notes and all that should be released to the banks and it should become a legal tender. And then another one-page memo with a one-page paragraph from the CBN directing the commercial banks to start doing the same. And then it gets to the public, the news gets to the public. I'm telling you, Sandra, all of this confusion will end automatically. And look, there are people who are doing excuse that the president is not around and all of that. Look, the fact that the president is not in the country does not shut down the presidency. The operations of the presidency are still ongoing as we speak. So it is unfortunate, and I want to just mind my words carefully there. I want to really be a bit careful with the choice of words, Sandra. It is unfortunate, it is startling that after 6 days of the ruling of the Supreme Court, we have not heard anything from the presidency. We have not heard anything from the CBN official statement, despite the sufferings and confusion that Nigerians are going through.
Is it possible? Sandra, is it possible that we are getting this silence because they expect that it's the Supreme Court judgment? There's nothing they can do.
Well, the judgment is supposed to be implemented. That's how government runs. We had an interpretation of the law. There were questions about jurisdiction, about the legality of this policy, and all of that. And where we're supposed to go was the Supreme Court, and they made a pronouncement on it. The executive is supposed to implement that decision immediately, especially because of the nature of this judgment. The fact that Nigerians are suffering needlessly as a result of this policy. That's supposed to be what rule of law is about. If we are indeed a country governed by law, and we say we are practicing democracy and the rule of law, look, it shouldn't take 24 hours for that decision to be implemented immediately. And like I said, a simple memo, a 1 paragraph memo can solve all of this problem. It doesn't have to be a broadcast by the president. Just a memo that is circulated from the presidency to the CBN, and then the CBN also to the commercial bank, and then the public gets the information, and then everything becomes normal. And look at the silence, 6 days, Sandra. Again, I just want to work my way. Unfortunately, it is startling. It's almost irresponsible that this is happening at the highest level. Because we say we are a country governed by law, that we are practicing democracy and the rule of law, and the Supreme Court gave a judgment that is affecting millions of Nigerians, suffering them needlessly, and then we have this silence from the presidency and the CBN, and we think it's normal. Sandra, I don't know. It's just, some of these things.
No one knows. No one.
I've never seen this kind of thing before in my life.
No one knows. We've always questioned, this silence that we always get, from the top as regards, major issues that's affecting Nigerians.
It's not even an important issue as this monetary policy. Look, go to the banks now, Sandra. Look at the kids. Look at the suffering. Businesses are collapsing quietly, Sandra, as a result of this policy. A policy that we knew at Benicio was not even going to work because of the way it was planted. The intentions at Benicio had already put it out as a policy that was bound to fail. And look at what we have now. And look at the silence too. And we say we're a country governed by law, that we're practicing democracy, and the Supreme Court gave a ruling 6 days after, nobody is saying anything. Sandra, I'm afraid though.
The report is, aside from the fact that the banks have, some banks, not all now, some banks are already, paying the old notes. Aside from that, there's also the report that even banks do not even have the old notes anymore because, they had to submit the old notes to
the last CBN. Information was that the CBN said that the 1,000 naira old notes had been destroyed. So God knows what we are in for now. The confusion lingers in west. Although the APC then, while approaching the court, said it was a lie, that there was no way the CBN would have destroyed the old notes. But look, Sandra, the issue is not even whether it was destroyed or not. It is about proper information and communication to the people. That look, at the level of the presidency and CBN, we are obeying the ruling of the Supreme Court, and so this should become a legal tender. So the little ones that we have in public or the ones in the bank coffers becomes a legal tender. People will not receive it, knowing that look, there's a directive from the presidency and the CBN. Other Nigerians who are not collecting it are waiting for directives from the presidency and the CBN who initiated this policy. in the first place. So I don't know. I really don't know. It's just unfortunate. I feel responsible too. No matter how you want to say it.
Well, it is the situation across the country. Some banks have already started paying it, but then some people are skeptical about collecting them.
Me too, I will not collect it, Sandra.
Exactly, because, someone even said, I queued for hours, to pay these old notes, and now you're giving them back. So what exactly is happening? But more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Now, above the masthead of the Nation, APC supporters march for democracy. Alake insists poll credible. And that's on pages 6 and 27 of the Nation newspaper. Transform Nigeria. NSCIA tells Tinubu victory well deserved. That's on page 6. That's on page 6 of the Nation newspaper. We also have here Sanwo-Olu takes campaign to the markets. I've been seeing the videos and the pictures is that's very interesting. I don't know. It's a campaign. I mean, he can campaign, but it's,
of course, yeah.
It's the tenacity
the
that
panic mode.
Yes, thank you.
The way it is now, Sandra. Why are you paraphrasing?
No, but I just find it
the
interesting.
governor is in panic mode. It's obvious.
Before, we had the governor of Lagos State, who was really working hard, going about with the president-elect, then candidate Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, all over in his campaign trail. One would think that, okay, he just felt that, I'm an incumbent, I mean, there's nothing to do. But, I think the result of the presidential election in Lagos State will be is a huge factor to this aggressive campaign that we're seeing from Governor Sanwo-Olu, don't you think?
No, of course. You understand that there's fire on the mountain. If the Labour Party won the last election in Lagos, and there are still questions even about the figures and the margin. The Labour Party is still insisting that look, they won that election with a wider margin, and that there were things that were done and all of that. But the reality is that the governor is now in a panic mode. It's obvious from the way he's campaigning. We talked about even engagements on social media now. Everywhere on social media, there's hardly any platform that you open now without seeing the advert of the governor pop up. He's now moving into markets. I think it was in Computer Village yesterday, taking selfies, talking to people. I think I saw a video of even him engaging with some youth. And I saw a lady sitting down so comfortably questioning the governor and all of that.
While he was standing. Yes, that was
while the governor was standing. So again, the beauty of democracy. These things are important, to deepen our democracy. And that's why again we are asking, are we sure really that this last election failed completely? If we have governors panicking up and down like this. I'm not saying that look, there were no glitches and all of that. But the result of the election is the reason why you have governors running elter-skelter. You have a lot of politicians. Even our own assembly member is really there. Honorable Desmond, I heard that the guy is running up and down, because he has a young man breathing down his neck now, going head to head with him.
A lot of them who quote and unquote were on sleeper mode, for
who are invisible, who were not available for people are now everywhere. They are even ready to talk and but the reality is that we'll see what happens on Saturday if the elections hold. Again, this election should be a referendum on the governor of Lagos State.
Right. I
feel that if Lagosians feel he did well in the last 3.5 years plus, they will vote him again. And if they feel, look, he didn't do well enough, he'll be voted out, and that's democracy in action. So we'll see how it goes on Saturday.
Well, we will see how it goes. And just as, Sanwo-Olu takes his campaign to the markets, we also have his counterpart in Oyo State also, doing his own. It's interesting how it is working. Yeah. Yes, house-to-house campaign, engaging clerics, canvassing for peaceful polls. A lot of people before the presidential election had thought that it was going to be a walk in the park for Seyi Makinde in Oyo State, but Tessim Folarin seems to be putting him on his toes at this time. Aside from the results from the presidential election, aside from that, apparently Tessim Folarin is also not just a small weight or a paperweight when it comes to politics in Oyo State. So
now son of the soil.
so we'll see how that we'll see how that pans out. So more details of that on page 26 of the Nation newspaper, and that's all we have from the Nation newspaper. We'll move on now very quickly to the Guardian newspaper. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't forget that we're live on Facebook and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. You can also drop your comments there that we can always use in Mainland Focus. Now, moving on, the front page of the Guardian newspaper, Tinubu files suit as appeal court. Yes. Yes. Tinubu files suit as appeal court rules on INEC's move to reconfigure beavers. And we have riders to that. Obi opposes INEC, seeks physical inspection of election materials. 70 CSOs kick. PDP rejects INEC's bid to reconfigure beavers machines. Court summons INEC, Wike, others over suit to suspend Saturday's governorship polls in Rivers. Why? 10th National Assembly won't be Tinubu's rubber stamp, says Oshiomhole. And finally, we have Shekarau absent as 98 senators-elect receive their certificates of return. Now, we've already discussed the major part of, this story. The Labour Party and the
going of beavers or not, yeah.
And also the fact that, some members of the APC are working together to also support the results, support INEC and all. And we also have, interesting statement from Adams Oshiomhole, who happened to be former national chairman of the APC, former governor of Edo State, who's saying that the 10th National Assembly won't be Tinubu's rubber stamp. What do you think of that statement before I get into the reports?
Well, it depends on what he means by rubber stamp. When politicians make statements like this, it's always good to ask follow-up questions. What do you mean, sir? Because the rubber stamp that we have out here may be different from what the politicians consider as rubber stamp. But what I know is that we are going to have a robust Senate and National Assembly. The fact that I think we have the Labour Party with a sizable number. We have the PDP also with a good number. We have the SDP. I think it's going to be a bit robust again if they don't begin to jump ship and cross carpet, because that's another problem. Before you know, when the deal starts to happen, they now begin to jump ship, and then you begin to have them cross carpet, or sometimes they remain in their political party without following the ideology of their party. They just begin to do all manner of personal deals and engagement. But I think it's going to be a robust Senate or National Assembly. I'm hoping that we are going to have them really live up to expectation, do their job as legislators, not as rubber stamps. Really, really come up with laws. That oversight function is also very important. Perform their oversight functions. Ensure that we have proper checks and balances, and then we have a beautiful democratic experience. And we are hoping that this is going to be a departure from what we have now. Where the Senate president keeps saying, "No, we don't want to embarrass." Nobody is saying the legislature should embarrass the executive. We are just saying, do your job, ensure that there's proper checks and balances, and then you perform proper oversight functions. And then we have good government.
Well, Oshiomhole is saying that he has always been the voice of the people all his life. That's what he said, and that he is expecting that yes, the executive will be powerful, but not absolute power, as they will obviously be subjected to legislative check. And he said that he's going there to sponsor bills that will change the status quo. Now, moving on from that, Ryder, we also have today being International Women's Day. It's very important to point out that out of the 101 senators-elect that received their certificates yesterday, only 3 were females. And they are Rivers Deputy Governor Ipilabo Banigo, former Lagos Deputy Governor Idiat Adebule, and wife of former SGF Ireti Kingibe. So out of 109, just 3 females. I think we have a whole lot more.
Poor number.
That's very, very poor. Very poor. There's a whole lot that still needs to be done as regards women inclusion in
politics.
In politics
and governance.
And thank you very much. Oh my goodness.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
All right. These are legal can be crazy.
Meanwhile, Senator-elect for Kano Central, Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, he was not able to collect his own certificate of return. Remember that he won Kano Central on the platform of NNPP. But then he wrote to inform the party that he has resigned his membership of the party and that he's no longer interested in that ticket. So NNPP has that ticket, but there's no candidate. Now, the party has gone to court to compel INEC to replace Shekarau with another candidate since he was no longer a member of the NNPP. And they're insisting... party officials said the commission failed to do so, insisting that the former Kano governor can only be replaced in a situation of death, incapacitation, or handwritten resignation.
So what happened, before the elections, he jumped to the PDP, so he moved to the PDP and left that place vacant. Now the NNPP has won that seat. I think...
so who has this? Is it the human being?
Sandra, when we talk about building a democratic culture and deepening our democracy, it would be nice to see what the courts are going to say about this issue now. Because again, it would also now put to rest the question of who owns the mandate.
Yes.
The person or the party.
Yes.
If you understand what I'm saying,
that's where we're going now.
Yeah. So whatever judgment comes from the courts now becomes the law, becomes an interpretation of the law, and then it becomes our culture that, okay, look, the reality is that, look, the mandate actually belongs to the party or the person the party has fielded. So it would be nice to see what the courts are going to make as judgment on this
at this point now, Fuhad, I don't think it's even a situation of, one party is dragging with another party as regards that seat. Because the candidate himself has said he's no longer interested in the ticket.
That's what we are saying now, that look, if the candidate said he's no longer interested, but the party is interested, because they had already given him the ticket before he left, and they have now won the ticket. Because I'm sure that whoever came second in that election tonight is going to go to court to say he should be declared winner, because the NFPP didn't have a candidate. And so, like I'm saying, it will be nice to see what the courts are going to say. Whether, NFPP, you can. Again, we have a precedent. So look at what happened in Kogi State, how Yaya Bello became governor. It was the ticket of the ticket of the APC that produced him, because it was not even on the ballot. So again, we'll wait to see what the court pronouncement will be, whether the NFPP can now replace him since he left the ticket and moved to another party, that they could bring somebody else to take the mandate.
Now,
since it belongs to the party.
Finally, on that particular report now, a federal high court in Port Harcourt has ordered INEC and Rivers State government to appear before it to explain why Saturday's governorship election should not be suspended. This is following, there's a suit by Chief Tonte Ibrahim, the governorship candidate of the Africa Democratic Congress, ADC. That's the party of Omoyele Shore. All right. And the party seeking suspension of the election in Rivers. Tonte, in an ex parte motion, stated that the new executive orders of the Rivers State government negatively impacted on the electoral process in the state. And so they are seeking suspension of the governorship poll in that state. That's a very, I don't know, it's a messed up situation.
Sandra, we said that we had already predicted that the courts are going to be filled up. But again, I think we may just want to appeal to the judiciary to be careful with entertaining all manner of suits and funny suits. I call them funny because too many of them are coming at this time now. And then I've also seen top lawyers who have also talked about this ex parte order as being illegal in itself, where courts just, orders restraining or stopping things and all of that. Because again, it may go against the dictates of the law and the constitution, but again, I'm not a lawyer. I've just seen lawyers who have also questioned the decision of court to be given ex parte order on different issues. But again, this is a case in court. We'll see what the court will make pronouncements on as far as the case is concerned. I don't know why anybody will be going to court to stop election process. Really, because it was going to happen with the presidential elections. It was almost going to happen. It was almost going to happen with announcement of results. But again, these are cases in court. We should not start prejudicial.
Okay.
Let's see court make pronouncements on them and then move forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Moving on now, still on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, we've treated a whole lot of the other stories, so we'll just focus on the ones we haven't. And we have here that Consumer Group urges new government to break disco's monopoly. I think we've always talked about that. So
no, it's not break monopoly. Let's revoke their license and let us do something else. I know they will not like it. I'm sorry. They failed us completely, and I don't think you encourage failure. I think what we need to do is to revoke their license and do something else. You're just go a different route. And for me to be unbundling this thing, unbundling it properly, and I think, yes, we can resolve the issue of the discourse easily by ensuring that people who are really ready to invest in distribution of power come into the business. It was almost like a political gratification. It was almost a paddy thing. Most of these discos got their licenses as a result of political patronage. We should give the licenses to people who are interested in investing. Look at the telecom. See the way the telecom companies are investing in expansion of network. Look, in my area now, they are busy putting 5G net cables, investing heavily. What are the investment level of these discos to expand distribution? So I think the best thing is for us to just revoke their licenses, do whatever we need to do, and give the license to people who are really interested in investing heavily with distribution of network. And then we should also look at this national grid. That thing called national grid, it has held us, spellbound for too long. We should unbundle it and then make it smaller units. Why can Lagos not have its own generation, distribution, and transmission? Why must we lump everything together? Right, but I agree that we have to do something different, really.
All right, let's move on now very quickly to the Punch newspaper. We still have Vanguard to look through. And the major headline on the front page of the Punch is, fuel stations, others reject old Naira, banks ration cash. So riders to that, accepting old 500 Naira, 1,000 Naira will hamper business, say retailers and others. CBN adamant refuses to direct banks to obey Apex Court judgment. So that's the quagmire that a lot of deposit money banks are in at the moment. More details on page 31 of the Punch newspaper. Moving on now, we have here Lagos, Kano gets lion's share as local governments share 2 trillion naira. And that is on page 34 of the Punch newspaper. So let's see what exactly we have been shared here. So local government areas in Nigeria got 2.02 trillion naira from disbursed federal allocation in 2022. So ranking highest as regards highest allocations, we have Lagos, Kano, Oyo, Katsina, and Rivers. Local government areas in the 5 states received 24% of the total allocation, where we have the lowest, the states that got the lowest allocations. We have Bayelsa, Gombe, Ebonyi, Nasarawa, and Ekiti State. Okay, so recently, state governments and local governments asked the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission to increase their shares of the federal allocation. According to National Deputy President of the Association of Local Government of Nigeria, Shehu Jega, local government need higher revenue allocations to be able to survive and avoid phasing into extinction. So, Fuhad, now.
The issue of our local government is not even the issue of higher revenue or higher allocation. It's about accountability. Until we guarantee the independence of the local government, where they are able to receive their revenues independently, we will not hold them to account on anything really. Because we have a situation where
I want to sorry to cut you, but just to correlate what you just said now. The president of the NULG, that's National Union of Local Government Employees, Mr. Ambali Olatunji, said that local governments do not get most of the money disbursed to them because of state government. The money was allocated, but it's not given to them. 25% of that money does not get to the local government.
So if more money is given to them, it's just more money for the governors. Simple. Okay. Not necessarily to the local government. So, and those are the issues that, again, when I kept talking about keeping our eyes on the ball, asking critical questions, it would have been nice. As I speak to you, Sandra, if you ask me what the position of the president-elect is on independence of the local government, I don't know it. because we never asked them questions. We were busy doing TikTok, doing bulaba, playing in sort of the issues, getting distracted with all manner of things. Now, critical questions that we have asked to be taught. We're just busy, going the route of entertainment and sloganizing and all of that. If you ask me today, or ask anybody now, this president-elect, what are his views, positions on independence of the local government? We do not.
Fuhad, but at some point, the president-elect, when he was campaigning, was not available for media interaction.
It was even the few ones that he attended. Were there questions to ask him? We even throw the questions at him. The few ones that he attended. He had some town hall meetings with the business class. He attended a few ones. But again, we will find a way to ask these questions eventually. But
right.
It's just unfortunate that the president-elect that we did not have been able to ask enough questions.
More details.
And it's not the only one. Most of the presidential candidates too.
34. Thank you. More details on page 34. I'm going to run very quickly, Fuhad. Please hold on. Force scarcity to linger till after election, says marketers. I think we've always had this conversation. That's on page 34. Also, we also now above the masthead of the Punch, we have here aviation fuel hits 840 naira as airlines are beginning to predict there may be flight delays ahead. And that's on page 34 of the Punch. Beaver's data intact, INEC tells court and parties. All right. So just as Fuhad had mentioned earlier that, you can always get the information you need at the back end. Let's reconfigure Beavers. More details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Over 200 cyber attacks blocked during presidential poll, says federal government. And that is on page 12 of the Punch newspaper. And finally, from the Punch newspaper, we have Labour Party, NNPP kick as police bar dogs from polling booths. So very quickly, just a minute forward on that one. Some people want to take their dogs to the polling unit to protect them from, voter intimidation, from thugs coming to polling booths and all of that. And, the police is saying that, oh, no, that's not allowed. You can't do that. So what says you? Just 1 minute, please, very quickly.
Just 1 minute, Sandra. You see, again, we just want to request that the police, do their job properly, provide enough security and all of that.
Okay.
It is because of the failure of people. Just a minute again. The issue of people bringing dogs. For example, I can't stay in the compound with somebody wearing dogs. So I would not even be comfortable as a journalist to work where people are bringing dogs. These are dogs that are hybrid. God forbid they bite an innocent person in the name of security. So I would advise that people keep their dogs at home and then beg the police to do their job. Simple as ABC.
That's all. All right, just a minute left to go on the show. Just quickly run through Vanguard newspaper. And the major headline of Vanguard is protest. PDP, Labour Party, tackle APC over sore losers comment. And that's on page 5. It's a lot of riders to that. You can get the details on page 5. I also have here, Reps Majority Leader Dogua's name missing as INEC unveils 358 members elect. Now, that's on page 25. Also, we have here, banks in shock as rejection of old 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes spreads. That's on page 8 of Vanguard. Latif Fagbemi, 11 other senior advocates of Nigeria to lead APC presidential election petition team. That's on page 9 of Vanguard newspaper. Organ donation plot. Ekweremadu tells court he thought he was being scammed. That's on page 7. Corruption trials not exclusive preserve of federal government. That's Akeredolu speaking, governor of Ondo State. That's on page 10. And then for endorsing PDP governorship candidate, Labour Party sacks Rivers Exco. That's on page 15 of Vanguard newspaper. And that is all we have on for this morning on Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM. We'll take a short break and we will be back by 8:40 as we pick one or two trending stories, put some spotlight on it, open up the phone line for you to join the conversation. This is Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Omobola Sandra. Please stay tuned.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM.